And by the way, not particularly, it's not an indictment of his life. Everybody has their path. And I wouldn't begrudge someone who was really put through as much as he was during his childhood. I wouldn't put them down for it, but I would ask, what makes them understand the middle class? Nothing. Not a clue. When he said this week that I have a right to health care, nobody ever told me that. I must have missed that day. That I have a right to an education after 12th grade. Nobody told me that. If I'd have known that, I wouldn't have paid off those student loans. I can tell you that right now. I mean, I was paying those things off until last year, and I'm an old lady. You know? If I'd have known I was entitled to health insurance, do you really think I would have settled for some of the jobs that I took over the years based on the fact that they afforded me health insurance? And when I sat down and calculated, like middle class people do, made sense. Take a little bit less money, get a little better coverage. I made decisions like that as a middle class person. I never thought I was entitled to any of it. When the President of the United States tells me about all the things I'm entitled to a home, I'm entitled to a green car, I'm entitled to this, you know what? The only thing I'm entitled to is opportunity. The freedom to pick how hard I want to work, what I want to work for, and who I'm going to share my money with. And by the way, I choose not to share as much of it with the United States government as they'd like me to share. Not because I want to withhold money that they're due, but because I've watched the way they spend it, and you know what? I could do a better job. I could take care of more poor people than they manage to with the money they take out of my check. If they gave me back some of that money, my charitable donations would go up exponentially, as I suspect most of yours would. So I understand how a middle class really works because I've been a part of it all my life. I don't want to be lectured about the middle class by Nancy Pelosi, who never had a middle class day in her life, okay? She's had more Botox this week than any middle class woman is ever going to be able to afford. I don't want to be lectured about the middle class by anybody, not on the Republican side of the aisle and not on the Democrat side of the aisle. By the way, the only congressman who remained in the middle class is the one who vacated his seat, and we're going to be listening to the challengers. You see, Robert Wexler was one of the few who couldn't figure out how to get rich in Congress, so he left. Somebody asked me today, but it also tells you a little something about Robert Wexler, because the way you leave is to, well, never mind. You're not run out of town on the rails. But I have one last thing I want to leave you with. This is one of those moments. You're going to get to hear some candidates. There are 3 candidates present, right? Who are all anxious about a primary that's going to take place next Tuesday, which, by the way, I asked randomly in Publix today, 35 people, if they knew when the primary, the Republican primary was. I live in CD 19, so it's kind of relevant in my Publix. I said, do you know when the primary is for the Republican Party for the next election? And they all told me October or November. The people, it's sad. People don't know what's going on. People are not showing up. The early voting, there were more registrars than there were people voting in my community. It's really an indictment of what we have going on in this country. So you're here tonight. You want to hear these candidates. I've been informed, and I have to tell you, this is really important to me. You know, I'm tired of politics as usual. I'm tired of people who are unable to address the concerns of the constituents. I don't really care about some of the things that are being discussed in this particular campaign. Not that I don't care about morality, integrity, and all the rest. I certainly do. But it's time for us to make some decisions tonight. You got, how many days? 6 days. 6 days. It's time to cut through all of the crap and make a decision tonight who you support. So you've been given some papers, I believe, where you're going to grade these candidates. And even if you don't live in the district, you know somebody who lives in that district. Or you will be able to call into my program tomorrow and talk about what you saw tonight. Talk about the fact that you took time out of your schedule, even knowing that the greatest speech on earth is going to take place in just about an hour. And by the way, you can go to my website, download the scoring sheets for the speech. We're counting how many times he says I, my, me, and then how many times Botox in the box jumps up. Because if it's anything like the last time, it's going to be like this. So we're excited. I thank you very much for inviting me. I thank you for caring enough about your country to come out here tonight. I thank Shannon because she's just extraordinary.